Atari was a company that produced the revolutionary Atari 2600 in the early 1980s. If any parent of a middle-aged gamer out there is watching this video, you'll probably recognize a lot of these games. Atari aimed to take the arcade gamers and put them into the living room. As a direct transplant and being in their infancy, games had no real story attached to them and had very simple objectives. There are a couple of genres of games that will be reviewed in this series: breakout rip-offs, climbing games, games that don't work period, maze games, pinball, platformers, reverse Space Invader rip-offs, shooters, side-scrollers, side-scrolling shooters, and upwards platformers. One other species of Atari game, the porn games, are seen as too explicit to some politically correct viewers, so we can't show them here on YouTube. While the games don't feature copulation, okay, Custer's Revenge does, and there are many examples of the games on YouTube, we're not going to put ourselves under the gun. You'll have to look elsewhere. We'll start with the really good games worth mentioning each episode, and then move down to the ones. For Atari games, we needed to create a tiered system to rank them. From 1 to 5, 5 would be an excellent game. 4 is a great game. 3 is okay, with some problems. 2 is poor. 1 is a really bad game. And then anything below that is abysmal and should be buried in a dump and poured over with cement. Wait. So let's start with Mrs. Pac-Man. Pac-Man, in whatever form it is in, is all about collecting dots or lines around a maze before the ghosts get you. You can eat them for extra points if you grab a big dot, and eating all the dots takes you to the next level. Simple in design, but it can actually get really challenging at later levels. Flippern is a game I never really heard about until today. It's a pinball game for the Atari that actually features pretty darn realistic graphics. It's not bad, but it leaves you desiring to play a real pinball machine, as the simulated machine itself is kinda dull and not interesting. Another really good game is Dig Dug. Originally starting in Japan, it made its way over here to the US. It's my father's favorite game. The goal is to dig tunnels and inflate enemies until they explode. Sounds cartoony and innocent, right? Well, just imagine the real-life implications. Flesh everywhere! You can also cause rocks to fall on enemies. It seems novel and boring at first, but this game can get really challenging. Missile Command is a shooter where your objective is to stop missiles coming in and annihilating your cities. I guess they got the idea from the Cold War nuclear threat, but the game is well designed and can be actually fun and addicting to play. Invaders is another classic. In a vertical shooting style, the objective is to hit the incoming invaders. This game can get very challenging because over time, the aliens move faster and faster until they touch your home base. River Raid is an overhead shooter that actually isn't too bad of a game. It features throttle control and refueling points. Your goal is to blow stuff up and not get hit. Frogger is another classic platforming game that has seen many remakes. It was very popular in the arcades, and the goal was to get your frog around the obstacles and onto the other side of the screen. The PlayStation 1 remake for this game was especially fun, and it's my favorite. So now let's get into the Tier 3 games, the okay games with a couple of problems. Pitfall is a classic game in which you need to navigate obstacles to get to the end, but it can glitch and it can get really frustrating real easy. Asteroids is another classic, but the game can get very boring real fast and features sloppy controls that have a steep learning curve. Defender is a side-scrolling shooter that's a lot of fun to play, but again, there are some glitches with it. Most of the time, your ship glitches out and you can't even see it on top of the screen. Pac-Man is the same as Mrs. Pac-Man, and the original is fun too, but the game glitches out and gives me headaches. Can't really tell where the ghosts truly are because the game gives you dual vision. He's there, but he's over there. So which one is it? 3D tic-tac-toe is pretty challenging. It forces you to think in 3 dimensions, though the rules aren't apparently clear. Now let's get into the bad games, the poor games. Ones you should probably pass on. Beany Bopper is kind of a really cheap Space Invaders ripoff that gets boring in about 3 minutes, and I don't recommend it. Acid Drop is a Tetris ripoff. It's okay, but it's not as fun as Clax or Tetris. Earth Dies Screaming. Other than the weird and disturbing title, it's a space shooting game that loses interest fast. China Syndrome is a game about Chinese dots multiplying too fast. If you don't contain them, they will explode, like I could grab them in the first place. Adventures of Tron is a bugged upwards platformer that won't let me advance past the second floor. Alright, now we're scrapping the bottom of the barrel. These are the games. Chase the Chuckwagon is a maze game where you need to move the dog over to the caravan by avoiding the man and a flying bone through a maze. The game has absolutely zero imagination, and I imagine a middle schooler could program something better. Eggomania has clumsy controls and has no real point to it. I really don't care about collecting eggs falling out of the ass of a multicolored peacock ostrich. Yeah, say that 5 times fast. For 32 and 1 here, they should have gotten sued. It's one game, and it's a side-scrolling shooter. I'm bored. Adventure is, well, it's bad. And what the hell is that? Adventures of GX12 is just another Tron ripoff. Or is Tron a ripoff of GX12? Air Raid is a simple Space Invaders ripoff. Not really much to see here. Alien is a boring Pac-Man ripoff. And now for the stuff so shitty that if we put it in Yucca Mountain with the radioactive waste, these games would eat the said radioactive waste because they are so bad. Burgertime has clumsy controls and absolutely no point to it. What am I supposed to do? How do I finish the game? Big Bird's Egg Catch is a ripoff of Egomania, and once more, it don't work. Chuck Norris Super Kicks works, but the attack doesn't, and it is awful. Donkey Kong, a game that should be fun and synonymous with fun, doesn't work. E.T. the Extraterrestrial. If you know your gaming history, this one is no debate. Just watch the footage to see why this game is absolutely bad. So, let's get to the ones that don't work. Farmyard Fun doesn't work. Airlock doesn't work. Arcade Golf is crude and doesn't work. Alpha Beam doesn't even work. Apples and Dolls is dumb and doesn't even work. Artillery Duel doesn't even work. Assault is a very bad Space Invaders ripoff. Bank Heist won't let you go any lower. Basketball doesn't work. And worst off, the Bernstein Bears freezes upon loading. So that's it for this episode. I'm definitely going to have some more. Stay tuned. I'm not even close to finishing to review what the 2600 has to offer. Good or bad?